Long ago there existed a god. Then evil came.
What's good, YouTube? Underworld 6667 here, coming at you with another episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! 101. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. 2 videos? Oh my god, maybe he's actually back for real this time. Now, I'm sure you're wondering why I'm doing so many videos, and it is because of the comment section down below where you're leaving your feedback, your great suggestions, your great ideas, and of course your support, as well as the Facebook messages that I've been getting very recently. Now, one thing that I do want to say is if it's deck ideas or deck profiles, that's going to be a Devin thing. He's going to be coming out with some great ideas for you guys to foster and take on and discuss, making your decks better, making your playstyle better, so on and so forth. Now, this particular video is all about a question that I recently got from one of our viewers, Behayden. Now, Behayden asked, you know, I've been going out to events, I've been trying to trade up, I have a decent binder with a bunch of good cards, but it's kind of stalled out. What do I do? One thing that you have to realize is Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a very different market these days. A lot of things online have stalled or gone down, and in-person stuff and the actual game itself is very fast moving and progressing. Here is a couple of tips and tricks when it comes to your binder and how you approach, how you trade and sell and buy that might be able to benefit you in the near future. First and foremost is how you are advertising yourself. What is your brand? A brand is something that other people associate you with. If you are the only guy that is a main source of great deals and great options and quick access to cards, then that is a great brand to have. If you are a person who always overvalues their cards and is very difficult to trade with, obviously people aren't going to approach you very often. It's the same instance if you are a person who has very limited selection of cards and you ultimately don't really have what they're looking for on a regular basis. There's a couple of ways to actually increase your brand. A, go to a number of events and make sure that you are well known. Make sure people know your name. Make sure you're going around, you're introducing yourself. You're not just walking around like I used to do where you just scream out, hey, you got any traders, got any traders, got any traders. Once you're actually engaged in that trading atmosphere, make sure the person knows that you're there to make profit, make sure that they know you're there to trade, and make sure that they know that you're there to trade fairly. One of the #1 things that I always emphasize is you want to be fair in the trade. Not necessarily give great deals all the time. Not necessarily are you going to actually value the actual cards at the online price, because online price is for online. There are certain things that you have to take into account as a buyer when it comes to online prices versus in-person prices. In-person prices, it's there, it's available, you don't have to wait, you don't have to pay for shipping. As a buyer, make sure that you are aware that potentially the price that you have in your mind is not a fair price, and the person who is actually trying to sell you the card is actually pricing it fairly. It's one of the biggest reasons why I see on Yu-Gi-Oh! Prices, they don't just give the lowest price and the highest price, they actually give an average price, and the average price is actually what you should be valuing the in-person deal at, mainly because that is a fair value. Obviously, the highest value is not a fair value. It is potentially a little too high. It could be reflectant of a person anticipating an ultimate gain or hype for a card, or the immense playability later on in the actual game, or potentially they're just like putting up really high priced cards. Another way to increase your brand is at the very mid section of the actual trade encounter, where you're actually introducing yourself as a main source for cards. One of the #1 things that I used to do is I used to say, hey, you know what? If you don't like my prices, I completely understand. It is something that is fair to me. I ultimately have to buy and trade and sell these cards. I have the card, you don't. If we don't make a deal this time, please keep me in mind for future purchases. It is a great way to increase your brand with that individual. Don't get me wrong, he might not be able to sell it to the first guy that one time, but in the future he'll know that you're polite, respectable, and you're a great person to deal with. If you're a complete and utter ass clown who's just over the top and full of himself, like me, you might not have a great brand associated with your name. Now, one quick thing that I did want to mention actually is from a recent engagement that I had when I was trying to sell my Yu-Gi-Oh playmats. I sell custom playmats. If you haven't checked my custom playmats, link down below to my website, and you can actually purchase both embroidered edge and standard playmats for you to actually use. Now, this particular experience came from a gentleman named Maxime Gauche from Montreal. He reached out to me because I was trying to sell those playmats, and he asked for a whole bunch of pricing. And I gave him a whole bunch of pricing. I even gave him a discount as well as free shipping because he lived quite a distance away. And he came back with the odd comment of, hey, well, do you want to buy my playmats for that amount? Now, I was offering him out the Doom Caliber Knight SJC 50, the Tragodia mat SJC 75, and a lot of collector's items that you can't really find online for a decent price. And of course, when he came back with the, oh, do you want to buy my playmats for that amount? Do you really believe that a buyer should be saying that? Does it make any logical sense that if I'm trying to sell at that price, I would want to buy at that price? Other than being a complete asshat and trying to be a smart aleck, it doesn't really increase the reputation. It doesn't make me want to actually give you an additional deal. It doesn't make me want to give you an actual additional discount. When you're acting like an asshat, it ultimately makes me want to just completely back up and just be like, I never want to deal with you ever again. So just like the brand of the seller is important, the brand of the buyer is also important. I had another individual, Matt, who is a continuous buyer of my actual products. He was buying and buying and buying, and at one point he had actually reached out to me months in advance for a card. And over that month of time, as you guys know, prices fluctuate, and that particular card actually dropped in value. Now, I had actually purchased that card specifically for Matt at a very minimal profit level, and I couldn't actually offer it to him at that lower price because it was lower than my cost. Now, what Matt did is he actually offered to still purchase at the value that we originally agreed upon at the event that he was going to and I was going to. As a follow-up to that, I was actually able to offer him other stuff at other events at an extremely low price in order to compensate for the fact that he did the right thing, which was purchase the card that he agreed to purchase at the price that he agreed to purchase on. I actually gave him a bunch of free stuff after a short amount of time because it was just like commons or rares or things that I had picked up extremely low, and I could actually take the hit on the actual card and the card price. So that just goes to show you that treating people right in both the buyer's perspective as well as the seller's perspective is extremely important for brand. Now, one of the other things that I did want to talk about, and one of the good ways to actually improve your brand outside of your face-to-face interaction, is the look of your binder. Having your cards sorted and organized in a nice fashion rather than just a line across the top and then one at the bottom. One of the things that I have done in the past is when you have, like, let's say 4, you either purchase one of the 4 binder slot binders, or you actually put them 2 in the top corner, 2 in the bottom corner, maybe 3 across the middle, 1 in the middle, and 1 in the middle. So you total the 9-page kind of feel, but it looks a lot nicer. Or if you have 5 of a specific card, you can create an X and then have 2 cards on the opposite sides to make it look a little bit nicer. How you present your image outside of the face-to-face interaction, how you converse with your actual buyer-seller relationship, is very important when it comes to cards. The last possible thing that I could definitely suggest out to you is diversify your actual binder and limit your actual binder. Monster binders are really great binders, mainly because it only gives you 40 pages to work with. If you have more than 40 pages, it is a daunting task for a buyer to actually go through that actual binder, or even a trader to go through that binder and try and find the things that he's looking for that he could potentially trade up. Maybe he knows something that you don't, maybe you know something that he doesn't, maybe he wants a card or he doesn't know exactly what he's looking for. Having an over 40 page binder is a daunting task, and when I actually had more than 40 pages, I only had 1 trade binder and then the rest was all for sale. One thing that I always find, especially when it comes to traders, and if you watch things like Trade Kings and that kind of thing on TV, you'll find that at a certain cap, that's when they start to sell the actual product rather than trying to trade it up. If that card is very difficult to trade for a fair value, it should not be in a trade-like binder. It should be in a sell-like binder or in a box that you can sell from. Those particular cards people are going to ask for by name. The things in your trade binder should be things that are offshoot, things that people don't typically want to actually buy or trade or discover. The cards that you should have in your actual trade binder should be those offshoot cards, those things that people aren't really going to ask for by name. Mainly because if they are looking for an Ash Blossom, they're going to ask for an Ash Blossom. Having it in a trade binder does not make logical sense because it is one of those higher valued cards. Unless you're going to be trading it for a whole lot of bulk or a whole lot of really smaller end stuff, which is going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort, it is not viable to actually put it into a binder. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you comment in the comment section down below. I always love reading those comments. I'm going to try and respond to every single person for as long as I possibly can until it becomes so overwhelming because of my overwhelming success that I can't do that, and it's a long way away from that. Once again, make sure you check the description bar below to get maybe a custom playmat, both embroidered edge as well as standard. If you're looking for a specific image, shoot us an email. We always work with great designers. We always look for new ideas of new playmats to actually make. So if you have an idea, make sure that you message us either on Facebook or through the actual website itself. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Underworld6667, and don't make those binder blunders.